What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review a mixtape by Birdman and Mack Maine. Basically, this project is called Billionaire Minds, and it came out in the fall of 2011. Now, the thing about this particular project is this is after Birdman's last album, which was called... The thing about this particular project is this was after Birdman's most recent album, which was Priceless, which came out in the fall of 2009. Now, originally, Birdman had an album that was going to be called Bigger Than Life that was supposed to come out in 2010, then 2011, and then 2012 or so, and it just never really wound up coming out. I would have to say this is kind of a good interim project. I do still... This Billionaire Minds is a pretty good substitute, although I do wish that the Bigger Than Life album would have come out. But I look after it, there is at least a single from that particular album, Bigger Than Life, that's on this particular stuff. And Mack Maine's a pretty good rapper, so he's a part of Young Money and that type of stuff. He's a Lil Wayne affiliate as far as I kind of have him, so it's some good stuff here to kind of get. This is basically like a pretty stellar and overall top-notch mixtape. I just would have to say, out of like 14 songs in this particular project, I wound up recommending to you 11, so it's quite a bit. This mixtape is hosted by DJ Khaled, and he's hosted a number of Lil Wayne and Birdman projects, so there's some dope stuff there to kind of get. And I just would have to say there's some overall good hip songs on this particular project. Definitely see it as like a classic mixtape as far as I kind of have. Just look after the affability behind it. There's just a lot of good stuff to kind of talk about and a lot of good moments as far as that kind of goes. I feel like if you like Priceless from 2009 by Birdman, this is like another good rendition of it. It's a little bit more current to like the early 2010s as far as that kind of happens. It's got some mini kind of Young Money type bops, and Lil Wayne's on here a little bit. Nicki Minaj is on here once. There's a Drake hook on here that's not really him, but just kind of sampled by him, some stuff like that. There are some Young Money folks on here like Short Dog and some of those type folks, and Mack Maine, of course, is on here and stuff like that. But Kendrick Lamar is on this project. It's too bad that that song didn't turn out better, but there's a lot of good stuff to talk about. So I'm just going to go ahead and recommend the songs I recommend. It's just easier to recommend this. It's just easier to talk about the songs I don't recommend first. So the 3 songs I don't recommend out of 14 would just be Luxury Life, The Fam, and B-Boys. So B-Boys has Kendrick Lamar on there. This is basically just a poor one. I was really looking for a beat that could have showcased Kendrick Lamar a lot better. I was really looking for a beat on B-Boys that could have showcased Kendrick Lamar and folks a lot better. This would have turned out better if that had happened better. This was not a very good example of one to kind of have. This is before Good Kid, Mad City, so it's a good concept to kind of get, but I still think he could have been on a better song. The Fam with Lil Boozy is another poor one. This is just kind of one that didn't really showcase Lil Boozy that well either, and folks like that. This is not a good example. And then Luxury Life was kind of an exquisite one, but just didn't quite engage enough. It just kind of had like just a real kind of almost fancy type beat, but it was just kind of a mixture between like fanciness and drill, and it just didn't pull it off quite as well as what it needed to. So that's kind of the concept about it. But to basically talk about some of these songs, I would suppose that the single off this mixtape is Why You Mad, which has Lil Wayne and Nicki Minaj on here. It's the only real promoted. Like Birdman did drop this song as a single back in 2011, so considering that Birdman didn't drop an album in 2011 or 2012 or anywhere around that time, I'd kind of suppose that that's kind of the single off this mixtape. Pretty good one as far as that kind of happens. This is basically like an enchanted... Why You Mad is basically like an enchanting kind of festive night craze. I'd have to say it's a basic outing apparel. Definitely, I feel like this is basically suited for some venue furore, I'd have to say. So it's a pretty nice one. Just a real kind of rave type one that Young Money's known for, especially throughout the late 2000s, early 2010s. Something like For My Town. Why You Mad is something like For My Town and Money to Blow, some of those type ones as far as that kind of happens. Just a dope kind of single to kind of have. Mack Maine's pretty good on here. Not Mack Maine, but Nicki Minaj and Lil Wayne are pretty good on here. Lil Wayne definitely need to drop more verses on this project, but then I guess it's a Birdman and Mack Maine project, so that's kind of the thing about it. But it's still a pretty excellent song, I'd have to say. Real enchanting kind of production, just overall kind of tensive type one that just has a pretty nice pace about it that works pretty well, I'd have to say. U2 is a pretty nice one. This has a Drake hook on the sample on there. It's pretty nice to kind of get that. This is like a woozy kind of night weaving song similar to Bedrock by Young Money, I'd have to say. It's like vintage early 2010s Young Money, I'd have to say, and it's a pretty suave song. This is definitely a nice one to kind of have Birdman and Mack Maine. This is definitely a pretty nice one to have Birdman and Mack Maine kind of be on in terms of like the suaveness as far as that kind of happens. Just a nice kind of late night ladies song as far as that kind of happens. Just a nice kind of woozy type one. This really kind of feels like a twinkling type one as far as that kind of goes. It's an overall good one. Great Drake hook as far as that kind of happens. In the Air is a pretty drowsy, stuck, kind of sluggish, smoke a few cut, I'd have to say. This is a city hopping blazer, definitely. It's just good for a lazy, sunny day. Definitely like this one. Just a real kind of lazy, just out and about type one, just in the sense of city hopping as far as that kind of goes. Just kind of more out in the commute as far as that kind of happens, just city traverse as far as that kind of goes, just sluggish kind of smoke, just get some smokage, that type of stuff as far as that kind of goes. Just a real kind of sleepy type one. I really like the concept and pace and beat of this one. This has a lot of good lazy kind of feels about it. It's just a nice one. There are some other summer songs on here, like Every Summer's another nice one like that. This one's not quite as drowsy, but it is a pretty nice one. This is like a ritzy, kind of relaxed, steamy pizzazz of a song, I'd have to say. It's a good living and exquisite type song, definitely, and it's pretty similar to Sun Come Up off of the Birdman. And the song is pretty similar to Sun Come Up off the Birdman and Rick Ross mixtape that came out in 2013, so that's a nice one. There's another song on here that I recommend that I'm not going to talk about as wholesomely just because it's on the Birdman and Rick Ross mixtape, but that's Money to Make. That's basically an almost song just because you can find it elsewhere. But I'm still going to give this mixtape like a 10 out of 10, but I would have to say you can find Money to Make on the Rick Ross and Birdman mixtape from 2013. So that's a nice one. Those are some nice ones. Priceless Summer is pretty good. This has a Dre hook, and Dre is from Cool and Dre, the producer group, if you didn't know that. So it's kind of the concept about it. But this is basically like a malaise, kind of sunset, summer haze of a song. I'd have to say it's some relaxed kickback, and it's just some fair kind of cruise music. This is definitely like a nice one just for being out on the town as far as that kind of happens, and just like the sunset type fare. It's kind of more evening haze, just kind of smoke a few stogies, some stuff like that. Just get some snack, just getting like some snacks and some just R&R type kickback as far as that kind of happens. Just some good bops as far as that kind of goes. Mr. Lottery is a pretty nice one. This is like a tense, kind of frosty, out and about kind of haze of a song, I'd have to say. It's some good regular times. This is a good regular times tune for being in the wind, I'd have to say. So it's definitely one. This is more like a winter type song, I'd have to say. Just has a real kind of tensive and just overall exhilarating type beat, and just like a dramatic and imperative type sense, I'd have to say. It's just a nice kind of hustle tune as far as that kind of happens. Just a nice kind of on the grind type one as far as that kind of happens. Just kind of is regular times just in like the city life or just out and about life in like the winter as far as that kind of happens. There's not a ton of winter songs on here, but Mr. Lottery is a pretty good one for that. Just a tensive type one. About Money is a pretty nice one. This is like a frenetic kind of night times going ham type song, I'd have to say. It's an exhilarating song, and it's pretty similar to For My Town Play Ball by Birdman off of his. This song is pretty similar to For My Town Play Ball by Birdman off of his 2009 album, I'd have to say, and it's just a pretty skittery song, I definitely feel like. So this is a pretty skittery song, and minus having like a Drake hook, I'd say this is a pretty frenetic type tune to kind of have for some night craze as far as that kind of happens. Definite nice one. And then I'm a Stun is another nice hit on here. This is like a stock kind of early 2010s Young Money tune, I'd have to say. It's just a typical day, evening, fair type stuff, I'd have to say. It's just some basic type stuff, and it's just a real dope kind of song. It's just a basic kind of song that's real steadfast as far as that kind of happens. Just day to day, just more regular and vanilla sounding as far as that kind of happens, just in a standard sense of just out and about during like a standard makeshift kind of day, just in like a hustler's format as far as that kind of goes. Just a basic kind of song was pretty dope, I'd like to say. Or it's just pretty dope, I'd have to say. So it's a nice one. Everything I Do is another hit on here. This is like a basic kind of mixtape commercial promo bop, I'd have to say. It's a vanilla evening venue hit, and I just would have to say it's a fun song, and it's pretty hooky. So everything I Do has a Lil Wayne auto-tune hook on here. It's pretty good to kind of get him back on his priceless days and rebirth days as far as that kind of happens. Just a nice one to kind of have in that sort of sense. So if you like Lil Wayne from 2009, 2010, this is another stock one to kind of have. Birdman and Mack Maine do a pretty good job on here. It's just a basic kind of mixtape commercial type tune as far as that kind of happens. Real good promo bop, like I was saying. Just a real nice promo kind of song to kind of have and stepping out a little bit in that sort of sense. It's pretty vanilla, but I just like the evening venue kind of hit that this kind of has. For a mixtape, this is pretty state of the art, I'd have to say. So some good stuff here as far as that kind of happens. And then Dreams Comes True. And then Dreams Come True is another nice highlight on here. This is a pretty stock one as far as that kind of happens. This song is pretty stock as far as that kind of happens. This is like a very stock kind of vanilla grinding promo cut, I'd have to say. It's just got some, this song has some commercial bite, and it's just pretty radio ready. So this is definitely one for like some radio. Fare as far as that kind of happens. Just a nice kind of commercial type tune. Has a great auto tune type hook on here that just works pretty well. It's just got some commercial flash and this overall exhilarating type feels. Just built for something to kind of get airwaves and that type of stuff. Just a real commercial kind of bite of a song that just really kicks ass and has a lot of good vibes about it as far as that kind of happens. It's a nice exhilarating type one and great for an evening venue, so I'd have to say. So that's the songs on this mixtape. So me recommending 10.5 songs out of 14 on here. Basically the almost song is Money to Make, but I basically recommend that song because it is a good song. It's just on another project, I'd have to say. So this mixtape gets a 10 out of 10. The social score gets a 10 out of 10 also. The social score gets a 10 out of 10 also because there's a ton of bops and jams on here as far as that kind of happens. There's some summer songs on here. There's some good nightclub songs. Nicki Minaj, Lil Wayne are on here. Some folks like that. Some great hooks on here. Some overall exhilarating and kind of good nightlife as far as that kind of happens. Just a lot of good freneticness and just overall social kind of candidness. A lot of good social candidness that just happens to carry this project pretty damn well, especially for a mixtape. This is just pretty commercial. Has lots of good stock hooks and stuff like that. Just a lot of good commercial bite and this overall candidness that just works and is very expressive, I'd have to say. So it's just good for some commercial bite. So the concept about it is that's the thing. So 10 score, 10 social as far as that kind of happens. In terms of the future, like Birdman has been dropping like collaboration projects as far as that kind of goes. I know he did one with NBA Youngboy and stuff like that. He's got some other projects I'm going to get to, but this is definitely a pretty highlighted one. Mack Maine's kind of here and there. I don't know if he's dropped more mixtapes, but I'd have to say if he had, maybe I'll have to check some of them out. If he had, maybe I'll have to check some of them out. But this is definitely a pretty exhilarating project. And this overall kick ass.